Hello, my friends. This is Jeannie. Welcome back. If you are a first-time visitor, where have you been? Welcome, everyone, to the continuing saga that is my altered book. This is video 5, I believe. And in this video, I'm going to share with you some of my techniques, some of my tips in applying panels onto your individual pages and creating some elements like a belly band or a pocket or a simple little flip element. Okay, I will hopefully also have time in this video to show you how to use envelopes to create really fun elements that lend a lot of like wow factor to your altered book. And because you're using envelopes, super simple because pretty much all the work is done for you. All you have to do is glue and create mats and all is good. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the pages. Once your pages, your book is prepped, you're ready to start putting panels onto the individual pages, you have to decide how you want to deal with kind of like that exposed rough edge between each of the pages that was created as a result of ripping out those pages. You can deal with it one of 3 ways. Number 1, you can leave it alone. Who cares? It lends a good sense of handmade and uniqueness and character to your book. Leave it alone. Don't bother with it. That's one approach. Another is to cover it with washi. Okay, and in my other book, I did try the washi method. I will say what I didn't like about the washi method, and maybe it's because of the way I did it, and this is where you can learn from my mistakes. What I tried to do was cover the seam with washi before I put the panel onto the pages. And that was so super frustrating because the washi kept sticking. I wasn't getting it exactly down the center. It was always wonky and off to one side. And because it was sticking to the 2 pages as I was trying to put it down the middle, it was kind of pucking the pages. It was pulling them in a little bit like this, and it was making some of my pages wonky. But I was committed, so that's how I did the other book. But once I was done with that book, I decided I wasn't going to do that method again. So in my second book, what I decided to do was just paint it. I used some distress paint. This one is called Tarnished Brass. I just used some distress paint and a dry brush, and I went down the center of each of the pages, between each of the pages, and painted that and just let it dry. Okay, if you will notice, I didn't just dry the down the center of that center space between both pages. I also came up with the paint a little bit on each page. I came up and at least I try to come up at least 1/2 inch on each page, and that was because in my mind I knew when I was going to apply mats onto each of these pages that when I cut the mat, I was going to cut it so it went from edge, not quite to the edge of the bottom here. I knew I was going to bring it up about 1/8 of an inch from this seam right here. I was going to bring it up about 1/8 of an inch. I didn't want the paper rubbing up against that rough seam because I didn't want that to kind of cause the movement of the page to be stopped or just to become rougher. I want it to be able to turn my pages smoothly, so I decided to bring the edge of the paper that is closest to the spine up about 1/8 of an inch, tiny amount, about 1/8 of an inch up. Okay, knowing I was going to do that and not wanting to deal with more exposed paper, I just brought my paint up a little bit to cover that up. Okay, and I did it for everything. Of the three methods, obviously the leave it alone one is the easiest, right? But to me, the second easiest was just to paint. That washi was frustrating. Oh my gosh. But like I said, I was committed in that other book. So that's the route I took, and it was a rough trip. You will also notice that I swapped out my book, okay? As I mentioned in previous videos, I'm working out of, it was 3, now it's only 2. I'm working out of 2 books. One was my practice book. The other was the final book that I was intending to swap. I put aside that other book because I wanted that book to be a surprise for my swap partner. But honestly, now that I've started working out of this book and I'm almost done with this book, well, almost, not quite, probably like 70% done. This is probably the book I'm going to swap because I'm super happy with the way this is turning out, whereas I'm struggling with the other, which is kind of ironic because this is supposed to be my practice book and the other one's supposed to be my final book. I'm struggling with that final book, and I think it's all because I used that washi tape method and it made my pages a little wonky. I'm finding it a little easier to work with this book where I use the paint because the paint didn't really affect the pages themselves. So that being said, let me show you, I guess I'll do a little flip through, and then I will show you each of the elements that I made for the pages and also walk you through on how I made that particular element. I will show some of the basic ones in this video and then maybe do a 6th video where I show the more complicated ones. I'm deciding to do it this way as opposed to filming me making the page, each individual page. I try filming me doing each page, and that video was crazy. It was 45 minutes. Let's start there. 45 minutes, and all I managed to get done in that 45-minute video is one layout. That's insane. At that rate, this series will be like 100 videos long. No. I think what I'm going to do, try and see how it works out in this video, is I'm going to show you what I did, and then I'm going to use my scraps to demonstrate to you how you can also do it, okay? This way, I can just move along a little faster, okay? So my front page is still not decorated. I have no clue what I'm going to do here, but I'm leaving it blank until I'm done with the entire book. So, yeah, got to think about that one. But my first page, my first layout, and for me, every time I open or turn a page, to me, that's one layout. Here's another layout. That's how my mind operates. Here's another layout. I work 2 pages at a time so that I can create a nice cohesive look. That's my aesthetic. If you want to treat each page as an individual page, then that's what works for you, okay? But this is what works for me. This is how I like to see things done, so this is the way I operate, okay? So you'll notice in my book that every time you open a page, it's kind of a layout that works together, either in color or I created a scene that runs across both pages, okay? So let's start with my first layout. This is a very simple one, where all I did was add panels covering the pages. I added a belly band. This is a belly band right here. And my belly band, a belly band is just basically a strip of paper that's either going to go across your page or from the top and bottom, from the top to the bottom of your page, creating somewhere where you can kind of like tuck things and leave them there. This is a horizontal belly band. It's going from side to side. Creating these belly bands, super easy, okay? And great way to add some spots where you can just tuck in some things, okay? As long as you adhered your belly band onto your page correctly, there's enough tension, I don't know if that's the correct word, that's created where the belly band itself is going to help hold whatever you tuck in here in your book, okay? So I'll show you how to create that belly band. In the page next to it, I did a very simple pocket, okay, where you can tuck something in like that. All right, or if you're not inclined to tuck anything in there, you can, I left this space blank up here so someone can put a photo if they wanted to. Okay, and because I like to have interactive elements on my pages, and I'm trying to maximize how I use those space, or use the space on each of my pages, not only did I create a pocket here, but I also created a little flip element on top of that pocket so that the person will have a little spot here to journal. Okay, and you could even attach another photo there if they wanted to. It's up to them. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I made this. Okay, so let's start with something as basic as, and I apologize if some of this is just too basic for you. It's not me insulting your intelligence. It's me assuming that not everybody, I'm not going to assume that everybody knows how to do anything. I'm just going to talk to everybody like we're all starting fresh. You know, we've just been rebooted, and I'm going to walk you through each process. So this is not me talking down to you or trying to be offensive in any way. This is just me assuming that everybody in my audience is brand spanking new to crafting. Okay, some basics, you know, like we all know rulers and we all know measurements. I'm not going to go there, but when I use terms, I'm going to try to define, at least in my mind, what those terms mean. And again, my tutorial, my way, doesn't mean this is the right way. This is just my way. Take it for what it's worth. Now, in my last video, I mentioned to you that I wasn't sure if I was going to create panels that covered the entire page, right, like that, or that left a little bit of a border like that. I decided that my mat, or my panel, which is this right here, was going to cover the entire page. My aesthetic, that's the way I wanted to do it, because I started thinking if I leave an exposed edge like that, that maybe through use that edge can start to wear and tear, which you know, it'll lend a cool distressed vibe to the book. But I decided that I just wanted a bit of a cleaner look, so I'm going to go from edge to edge, okay, and cover the entire page. So once I apply these mats onto the page, you're not going to see much of the page. The only part of the page you're going to see are the pockets maybe that were created. Here's an example. Let's find one with a pocket. Okay. Okay. Now that I want a page with a pocket, I can't find a page with a pocket. Okay. So I adhered this on in such a way, here's one, where the pockets were not affected. Okay. And you can still see the page of the book in there. All right, so what you're going to do is take your ruler, measure your page, okay? And your measurement is going to depend on the size of your book. Your measurement is going to depend on whether or not your panel is going to cover the entire page, or just, you know, the center of the page, leaving a little border all around. I don't want the border, so I'm going to measure so that when I cut my panel, this mat right here, pat, let's try that again. Mat or panel. I will use those words interchangeably. I'm referring to the same thing. I'm just referring to that paper that you're going to attach on top of your page to pretty up your page. I measured from the side edge all the way to the inside edge. And let me retract. I'm going to take that back. I measured from the side edge to about 1/8 of an inch up from the inside edge. I don't want my pages to be jammed into there. Okay, if you jam pages in there because you want to cover the entire page, leaving absolute zero seam, it's gonna be hard for you as you add more and more pages to turn your pages. And also you risk this edge rubbing up against the inside edge of the book, making it hard for your page to open and lay flat like this. Okay, lay flat like that. So when you're measuring from side to side, I would encourage you, leave a tiny gap. Leave a gap. Okay, leave a gap. You see how my page goes from this edge here almost all the way in, and I left that tiny little gap right there. Can we see the tiny little gap? Tiny, right there. It's about 1/8 of an inch right there. I'm not going to measure it so that it rubs all the way in like that. I'm going to measure it so that it comes up about 1/8 of an inch like that. All right, so that I can turn my page, no problem. Also, if you measure all your pages down to the end like that, and when you stick them, you find these pages are going to rub together. So again, that little bit of a gap keeps the pages from bumping into each other as you opening and close them. So that tiny gap, 1/8 of an inch, okay, if you're not sure that you want to do 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, okay, is going to keep your pages from sticking together or from bumping into each other as you're opening and closing your book. You're going to measure from side to side, top to bottom. You're going to cut your panels. Once you measure one page, all your panels are going to be that same size, okay? Don't bother measuring each individual page. Okay, you're just going to waste your time. All your panels are going to be cut that same size. All right, even if your page itself is a little off because it's wonky, because of the way it's stuck together, it doesn't matter. All your panels are going to be the same size. And the good thing about that, all your panels being the same size, is if you do have some kind of inconsistency among your pages, the fact that all of your panels are the same size is going to make all of your pages uniform in size once you adhere it. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So once you know what paper you're using, and once you cut your panels, okay, this is my next layout. Okay, you can go ahead and glue your panels onto your book. I have been using this, what is it, Tombow Mono liquid glue, and it's been working great. What I do is I just, when I'm finally ready to put the panel onto the book, I just put around all of the edges and a little bit down the middle. You can use tape runner, but that gets expensive. Those refills are expensive. I've just been using that glue, and I purchased mine through Amazon Prime. I get a good deal, and I usually get them in packs of 4. So there you go. You can glue your panel into your book and then start decorating it, right? That's not how I work. That's not how my mind works. I know that I might want to stamp on these panels. I might want to heat emboss on these panels. I might want to add other interactive elements with working parts that I might want to hide behind the panel before I stick it on. So once my mats or my panels are measured and cut, I work outside of my book. And I do whatever I want to do with them. Stamp them, heat emboss them, glue things onto them before I take the final panel and glue it into the book. That's how I operate. That's how my mind is organized. You operate in whatever way works for your brain. That's how my brain works. So that's how I've been doing it. I cut my panels. I treat them. In some cases, I'm distressing the edges to hide kind of like that white edge that is exposed when you cut cardstock. You have that white edge. I don't like to see that. So I go through and I just ink it up. Okay, I add whatever elements I want onto it. And once it's mostly done, I go in and stick it into my book. Okay, that's how I work. And because I work in 2-page layouts, I always have my 2 panels next to each other where I can just see the canvas that I'm working on. Please forgive the barking in the background. Those are my dogs. It's very windy here in Long Island. Super windy, and they bark at anything and everything that falls off a tree or rolls by the house. So you're going to hear a lot of that barking. Now, let me walk you through making a simple belly band. Okay, here's a panel that I created a belly band on. You see that? And this is a horizontal belly band going from side to side. You can also create one that's vertical that goes from top to bottom. I'll show you one I made in this book that works. Here's one that works from you know, top to bottom. Also a belly band where you can just tuck something in there. But in this case, I'm going to show you how to make this one. But making the other one is, you know, super easy. You just adhering it onto your page a little different. So we're going to make this little belly band. As I said, belly band goes across the page either from side to side or top to bottom. On this particular panel, I made one that goes from side to side. Super easy to do. What you're going to do is you're going to cut a strip of cardstock. I would recommend that the width of your cardstock will be at least 1.5 inches. I don't think you want a belly band any thinner than that, because the motion of kind of tucking pages or tucking items in and out is going to create some stress on the belly band. And I think if it's super thin, you risk it, or super narrow, you risk it being ripped. Okay. So I tend to, the narrowest I will go is 1.5 inches, but for me, ideal, I try to do at least 2 inches, if not more. I do the thicker bands when I know I'm going to layer on top of it. Like this one, I know I'm going to layer another panel on top of this, so I made my band wide enough so that I could put another layer of cardstock on top of it. So how wide your band is depends on what you're going to do with it, but I would encourage you to keep it at least minimally 1.5 inches to avoid it ripping. Also, if you're not going to layer on top of it, if you're not going to add other cardstock on top of it to kind of reinforce it, then use a heavier weight paper. Don't use super thin paper to create these belly bands. Again, because as you're moving things in and out, all right, if it's super thin paper, it could rip. And how devastating would that be to have like a seam going down your belly band? Because, you know, got a little rough in handling it. So try to use a heavier weight cardstock if you're only going to use one layer. If you're going to use multiple layers, then I think average size cardstock is okay. Now, to create the band, what you're going to do is cut a piece of paper. I would say at least minimally 1.5 inches thick, or I should say, right, about 1.5 inches. This one's a little bit more than that. I think this one's 2 inches. In my case, this is 2 inches. 2 inches, okay. And you want it to, since it's going across the entire width of your page, right? It's going across the entire page. Cut that strip down so that it exactly is the same size as your page. See? This is, in my case, 5 7/8. So this strip is 2 inches by 5 7/8. Then what you're going to do is take some glue, apply it to either edge. Boom, boom, right there. Okay. I would encourage you to use wet glue as opposed to using a tape runner, because if you use a tape runner, what can happen is the tape runner, that tape is never completely dried, obviously, right? It's not like wet glue. Once wet glue dries, it's dry. A tape runner is always going to be, that kind of adhesive is always going to be tacky. So what happens is, if it's tacky on either edge, as you're shoving things in and out of that belly band, what could happen, especially if you're tucking wider items into that belly band and that any part of whatever you're tucking in there rubs against the edge where the paper is adhered with that adhesive tape, it's going to wedge itself between that tacky adhesive and the page, and it could potentially stick. Okay, and you can ruin whatever it is you're tucking in there. Also, if you do that enough times, you can actually risk separating the band from the page. So I would encourage using wet glue. So once it's dried, it's dry, and nothing is going to kind of wedge itself in that seam. That's dry. Nothing's getting in there because I used wet glue. So once you put the glue on either side, okay, then you're going to just stick it down. Okay, that's how you create a horizontal belly band. if you want to make the vertical one, then obviously cut yourself a strip that's as tall as your page and glue either edge, and you'll have a horizontal belly band. But in this case, we created a vertical belly band, so I cut my paper the width of my page, glue, stuck that on here, let it dry, and now I have my belly band. Okay, so that's how super easy it is to make a belly band. Now, making pockets, same concept. Okay, you're going to cut depending on what size pocket you want. If you want a pocket that covers your entire page from side to side, like a full pocket, this here is a full pocket. It covers my entire page. You see that? That's a full pocket. That's a page pocket right there. Okay, then what you would do is cut that strip of paper the exact width of your page. You're going to put glue on 3 sides and glue it to the bottom of your page, which is what I did here. Okay, and now you have a pocket on the bottom of your page. Okay, if you want to make a pocket like this one, like a smaller pocket in the center of your page, then you would cut your paper down to whatever size you want that's smaller than your page. Okay, here's an example. Right, smaller than the whole page. This would be like another center pocket. And if you want it to be a top pocket like this one is, then what you would do is you would put glue on either side and on the bottom, adhere that onto there, and then you would have the open seam at the top, creating that top pocket. If you wanted a side pocket where you can kind of tuck items in this way, like this, pulling them in and out, then when you apply the glue, add it to the top, to the bottom, and to the side, leaving a side seam open, and then you can go ahead and you have yourself a side pocket. Okay, again, I would encourage you to do whatever decorating you're going to do to your panel before you glue it onto your page. Okay, so that if you want to do stamping on it, like on this pocket, I knew I wanted to do some stamping. That's a stamp that I use. I stamped onto the papers and did all of my decorating before I glued it into the book. It's just easier to work that way. Okay, so that's how you make a belly band, and that's how you make a pocket. And using those basic concepts, you can make belly bands galore. You could add multiple belly bands onto a page. You can add both horizontal and vertical belly bands onto your page. You can have a belly band fest. Okay, let your imagination run wild, and that's how you create belly bands and pockets. This page also has this little flip element, super easy to create. So all you want to do to create that flip element, and let me use a sample here, is you could do it super easy. You can take a gift tag, an old gift tag. You can take an old greeting card and just adhere it onto your book, creating these flip elements, and then just decorate or mat those tags and old cards so that it matches your book. Or you can create them yourself using strips of cardstock. Super easy. Depending on the size of the flip element, you cut. Let's find one. I have so many strips of paper here. It's kind of crazy. And I didn't throw anything out because I knew I would be working on it. But what you would do is cut yourself a strip of cardstock, right? Depending on how big you want your flip element to be. Here's an example. If you wanted to make a flip element that is 4 by 4, okay, in size, you would cut it so that it's 4 inches wide and 8 inches long. okay? Because you're going to then fold it in half like that, right? And you can use your scoreboard, you can use your bone folder, all of that to give you these nice, beautiful, crisp folds, okay? And then you have that little flip element. You would put glue to one side, stick it onto your page, stuck, okay? Then you have that little flip element. And then you can create mats for inside, the outside, decorated to your heart's galore, okay? And using that same concept, you can create as many flip elements as you want, like flip after flip after flip after flip. It's just not, like, never ending, okay? So those are belly bands and flip elements. What you can also do with these bottom pockets, you can also create them, cut your paper and adhere it so that instead of a pocket at the bottom of your page, where is it? Instead of one on the bottom of your page like I have here, okay, you can create those same pockets, but create them so that they are, let's find one where I did a side one, okay, where here, instead of gluing it to the bottom of the page, I glued it to one side of the page, and I just have this side pocket right here. Okay, so just using those basic concepts and your imagination, you can create different size elements for each of your pages. You can also create elements on different areas of your pages, top, bottom, side, center. You just have to kind of just do it. Don't be afraid. I think the hardest thing for a lot of people is, maybe I should just speak for myself. The hardest thing about crafting for me is getting over that fear of, but I don't want to mess it up. And I'm getting better about it. And quite honestly, I have good days and I have bad days with that, where I'm like, a project just sits and nothing happens with it because I'm afraid, oh my God, this is what I want to do, but what if I ruin it? Then and then there are other days where I just slap things into a book and, we're gonna pray, let's see what happens. Okay, so I get it. I can totally relate with you not wanting to ruin your project. Maybe that's why this method of working on the panel before you stick it into your book might be a good idea for you, if that's something you struggle with. Because if you ruin your panel, toss it out, do another panel before you stick it into your book. Whatever goes into your book is what you're going to be happy with. I think that alleviates a lot of the stress, of you, oh my God, but I don't want to ruin my book. It's helped me, so that's something that maybe I can recommend to you. So I know this video is kind of basic in terms of belly bands and pockets and flip elements, but I just wanted to give you a little foundation to work from. If this is all something you're familiar with, then obviously, this video is not for you, okay? And I will do another video where I will share with you how I did some of the more elaborate elements that I have in my book. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is that belly band. Burp, 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 burp. Okay, so here. This is that belly band right here. This is that pocket right here. Here's that flip element. Okay, turn the page. This panel is so beautiful, I left it as is. Here's a bottom full page pocket. Okay, turn the page. Over here I have these side pockets that kind of run diagonal. Oh my God, I have no idea how to make these pockets and I struggled with it. So maybe I will show you in the next video how to make these types of pockets. And I still don't know if my method is the easiest way, but it's the one that worked for me. Here, look at this, guys. Here I used an old a gift bag. I think I got these from the Dollar Tree. A gift bag to create a little interactive element here where I altered the bag a little bit, and now I have this bag in here where someone can just open it up, tuck some things in here. I still have to finish the back side of this. I'm not sure how I'm going to finish that. So that's something I can show you how to do for a later video. Once you've mastered the art of creating pockets, then you will learn how to trim the edges of your pages, of your of the cardstock that you're going to use to make the pocket. You'll learn how to kind of work those edges to create different scenes. Like here I use that same pocket concept, but I created hillsides. I didn't just use a straight rectangle shape piece of cardstock. I cut these rectangle shapes and then I added decorative edges to them. Like here I created hillsides. Okay, so it looked like a snowy background there to create a pocket. But this is the same concept of a basic bottom pocket, but I just, you know, you kick it up a notch a little bit by trimming the edges differently, adding curves so it's not all straight lines. Here we have a snowy background that I created, okay? And then maybe in the next video, I'll show you how I did this. Check this out. So this page has that bottom pocket here, right? And then each of these mountain sides is a pocket. So I layered multiple pockets. I'll show you how to do that in the next video if you like. But wait, check this out. Ta-da! I created like this fold out here, and I'll show you how to do that in the next video. Okay, here again is another simple bottom. Here's using that flip, but I did a flip element on an entire page, and I can show you how to do that in the next video. This is one of my favorite pages. This element right here, you see this little ribbon? If you pull it, it's an accordion style. Look at that. Album. And that was made using envelopes and nothing else. Envelopes, my friends. Envelopes. And I will show you that in the next video. Here's another where I created kind of like this peekaboo panel. I can show that in a separate video. But again, here, this is just another pocket. This is just another pocket. So, I mean, and here I created some additional flips using file folders. I had these teeny tiny little mini ATC file folders. I used those to make that element. Here's another kind of peekaboo using, again, envelopes. Nothing else, just envelopes. And I'll show you how to do that. And that's pretty much where I am with my book. So I apologize if this video is a little too basic for you, but like I said, I'm going to work up in stages. I'm going to start with this basic, where you learn some of your basic techniques and some tips from me on how to kind of modify those basic techniques to create things that are super awesome and interactive. And in the next video, I'll do some of the more complicated stuff. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I truly do appreciate it. And I hope you will visit me again. If you are a first-time visitor and you like what you see, definitely subscribe. Come back and visit me. Until next time, my friends. Bye-bye.